I stood in the kitchen, eyes fixed on the coffee swirling in my mug, when a realization dawned on me. Something was profoundly off. It wasn't a gut feeling or paranoia. It was a palpable absence, the kind that echoes louder than noise when you finally take note. Ashley wasn't home. The microwave clock blinked 2:43 a.m., and the house was eerily silent, so quiet it felt like I was an intruder in my own space. I glanced at the front door. It was still locked. Her car was absent from the driveway. I instinctively reached for my phone resting on the counter. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. I didn't let panic settle in. At least not yet. I walked to the bedroom, where I found her side of the bed perfectly made, her pillow untouched. The nightstand housed only a lamp and that vanilla-scented candle she never lit. I checked the bathroom, the closet, even the laundry room. Nothing. A tight tension coiled in my spine as I called her voicemail, then called again. Voicemail. I texted, "Where are you?" Silence echoed back. I wasn't the type to overreact, but this felt wrong. Ashley wasn't the kind of person to stay out late without checking in, even when we fought. I ran through a list of worst-case scenarios: car accident, stolen phone, an emergency. But if it were an emergency, someone would have reached out to me. The thought that perhaps she didn't want to be found sat heavy in my chest. I opened to find my iPhone app. Her location popped up immediately. Not at her sister's house, not at a hospital, but at a motel 30 minutes away. My grip tightened around the phone. I stared at the screen, hoping for some glitch, some mistake. But the little blinking dot remained steadfast, marking her at the Pinecrest Inn. I faced a choice. Ignore it, pretend I hadn't seen it, go back to bed and ask her about it in the morning, or get in the car. I opted for the latter. I grabbed my keys and drove fast. Adrenaline matched the rhythm of my heart as I sped down the highway. The streets were mostly empty, streetlights casting sharp shadows along the road. With every mile closer to the motel, the air thickened in my chest, as if my body knew the truth that my mind was reluctant to accept. Ashley was there, at a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, and I was about to discover why. Upon arriving, I shut off the headlights and parked in a space near the entrance. The building looked just as expected, a squat, two-story structure with a flickering neon vacancy sign, the type of place where people go to evade discovery. I hesitated before exiting my car, scanning the lot until I spotted it, her car, tucked away in a corner like she thought hiding it would shield her from view. My stomach twisted as I recognized the little details: the sun-faded bumper sticker, the scrape on the side mirror she never had fixed. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. I stepped out of the car, shutting the door quietly, almost as if the act of noise could change the outcome of this night. My heart pounded in my ears as I approached the staircase, where two men lingered outside one of the ground-floor rooms, passing a cigarette between them. They threw me a glance before turning away, and I pressed on. Room 214. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavy with dread. The air smelled stale, like damp carpet and old beer in a place never quite cleaned. I paused outside the door, inhaled deeply, and knocked. Silence. Knocked again, louder this time. Nothing. Then I heard movement inside, a shuffle, creaking bed springs, a whispered voice. I tried the handle. It was locked. My breath quickened, and I knocked once more, this time more like a demand. Moments later, footsteps approached, halting just behind the door. A crack appeared, barely enough for me to glimpse her face. Ashley looked disheveled, her face flushed, dressed in a man's hoodie. The moment she spotted me, her expression twisted into a mix of shock and annoyance, as if I were the one invading her space. "Ethan," she said, her voice a strained whisper, like a name she couldn't bear to say aloud. Then I heard it, a man's voice from inside. "Ash, who is it?" A cold wave crashed over me, chilling me to the bone. I saw the panic flicker in Ashley's eyes as she turned her head slightly, seemingly trying to will me away. The chain rattled as she hesitated, blocking my view. I didn't need to see anymore. I already recognized that voice. It belonged to Mike, my friend and coworker, the guy who sat across from me every day after work, shared coffee, cracked jokes about the boss, and pretended to care about my marriage. Something inside me snapped into place, the sickening clarity of betrayal. Ashley, I called, my voice dangerously soft. Take the chain off. She hesitated, her hand moving toward the lock, but then stopping, knowing there was no lie, no excuse that could get her out of this. Ethan, please, she whispered, almost pleading, her eyes darting away. Take the chain off now. Another voice came from inside, more cautious now. Who's at the door? That was it. I couldn't hold back. I slammed my palm against the door, making it rattle in its frame. Ashley, take the chain off now. She flinched, staring at me as if I was the unreasonable one, and then said, Ethan, please. Not here. I let out a short, humorless laugh. I felt like I was running on autopilot, my voice calm. Too calm. You don't get to control this, I said firmly. Not anymore. Take the chain off, or I swear to God, I'll make so much noise that the whole motel will know what's happening in this room. A thick silence hung, and then slowly, reluctantly, she unlocked the door. As it swung open, Mike stood behind her, barefoot, dressed in my t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. My mind quickly registered the details. His damp hair as if he'd just showered, Ashley's hoodie pulled on carelessly. I stepped past Ashley, entering the room. The moment I crossed the threshold, the air thickened with betrayal, and I confronted Ashley directly. How long? She swallowed, her eyes darting toward Mike, searching for support before returning to me. Months. Not just a mistake, not a drunken lapse in judgment. This was a conscious decision, repeated over and over again. All this time, she had come home, slept in our bed, kissed me goodbye in the mornings, and looked me in the eye. My jaw tightened as I turned to Mike. You knew. He didn't deny it. There was no defense offered at all. Yeah, I did, he admitted quietly. Ashley stepped closer, reaching out as if she could salvage something with a touch. Ethan, please. We can talk. Talk? I scoffed, my bitterness spilling over. You had months to talk, months to be honest. But you didn't. You lied every day. Tears brimmed in her eyes, yet I felt no sympathy. I turned to Mike one last time. I hope this was worth it, I said, because you just lost your job. His face drained of color as I walked out the door. I couldn't go home, not yet. The thought of stepping back into that house, now tainted by their betrayal, churned my stomach. The couch, the kitchen, our bed. I couldn't stand it. So I drove, nowhere in particular, just away. The road stretched ahead, dark and empty, a blur of headlights and street signs. My phone buzzed beside me once, then again. Each time I ignored it. Anger settled in, transforming into a colder, more controlled determination. Eventually, I pulled into a 24-hour diner, the air thick with the aroma of burnt coffee and desperation. A few truckers occupied a back booth, staring at the battered menu without really seeing it. A waitress in her mid-50s approached, tired eyes scanning me before she asked, "What'll it be?" "Just coffee," I muttered. She nodded and disappeared. I exhaled, running a hand down my face, my mind replaying the night, like a film stuck on loop. Ashley's shock when she saw me, Mike's absence of shame, the hesitation that nearly cost her. The truth of months spent betraying me haunted every thought. The waitress returned, setting my coffee down. I barely acknowledged her as I picked up my phone. 6 missed calls from Ashley, filled with desperate pleas. "Please talk to me, Ethan. I know you're angry. We need to talk." Each message felt like a twist of the knife. "Tell me not to do anything rash," I muttered, letting out a dark laugh. How rich was that coming from her? I tossed my phone onto the table, staring at it like it might explode. Then I received another message, this one from Mike. "I'm sorry, man. We need to talk." Fury ignited in me, a slow burn fueled by the audacity. I took a sip of my coffee, the bitterness stinging my tongue. Suddenly, clarity washed over me. I knew exactly what I was going to do. No replies for Mike. He wasn't worth my time. Instead, I sat in that diner, watching my coffee grow cold as I resisted the urge to blurt out a burning message that would scorch the earth. I needed to be smart. This wasn't just about Ashley's infidelity. It was about who she chose to betray me with, my subordinate. I was his boss, which gave me a power much greater than petty revenge, real, calculated career-ending power. I left the diner and made a plan. Monday morning, I arrived at work earlier than usual. The office remained quiet, fluorescent lights casting their dull glow over empty desks. I walked straight to HR and knocked once before stepping inside. "Jenna," the HR manager said, glancing up from her computer. "Everything okay?" I closed the door behind me, letting tension seep into my posture. "I need to talk to you about Mike." Her brows furrowed with concern. "What about him?" "It's serious," I replied, lowering my voice. "It involves a potential workplace violation." Her expression shifted instantly. HR reps live for these scenarios, an opportunity for investigation. I have reason to believe Mike has been engaging in inappropriate conduct with a colleague's wife. It's a direct conflict of interest, considering our company's stance on workplace ethics. I let the implications linger. "That's a serious accusation," Jenna remarked. "I have proof." I pulled out my phone and opened Ashley's texts, scrolling to the ones where she had stupidly mentioned my name. Jenna's face morphed into an unreadable mask as she read. "This is bad." She looked back at me. "Does his wife work here?" "No, but the betrayal happened under the guise of workplace interactions. Business trips, late-night meetings. He used company time to pursue this." "Interesting," Jenna mused, her fingers racing across her keyboard. "We'll open an internal review. Mike will be notified by the end of the day." I leaned back in my chair, feeling satisfaction spread within me as I considered my next move. I spent the rest of my morning acting like it was just another Monday, watching Mike stroll in 20 minutes late, coffee in hand, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. He took his seat across from mine, but didn't even look my way. A coward. I kept to my routine, answering emails and making rounds through the office, all while knowing that something significant was brewing beneath the surface. Just after noon, it happened. Mike's phone buzzed on his desk, and he picked it up, glanced at the message, and his face turned from casual smugness to pure panic in seconds. He glanced at me, his expression shifting. "Did you?" I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "Something wrong. HR just called me in." "How strange," I replied, sipping my coffee. "Wonder what that could be about." His stare lingered too long. I could see doubt creeping in, the dawning realization that maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't get away with this as cleanly as he thought. As he stood, hair ruffled and brows knitted, he trudged toward HR's office, and I smiled. This was just the beginning. I waited about 10 minutes before following him, not inside, of course. I didn't want to give Jenna any reason to think I was interfering. Instead, I wanted to be close enough to watch the fallout. When Mike finally stepped out, his face was pale, lips pressed into a thin line. He looked rattled. "Good." As he walked past me, I stopped him with a casual, friendly tone. "Everything all right?" He froze, slowly turning to face me. "You told them." "Did I?" I shrugged, trying to play innocent. "Sounds like you have something to confess." His hands clenched into fists. "Don't play dumb, Ethan. I know you went to HR. Doesn't look promising for you, does it?" I could feel my smirk creeping in. "You really think this is going to ruin me?" He spat. "They're not going to fire me over this." I remained silent, letting the tension stretch between us. Mike had no idea I had prepared for this moment. I had already scheduled an email to his wife, an email that outlined every detail. 5 minutes later, Mike's phone rang. He grabbed it without thinking, pressing it to his ear as he muttered, "Hey, babe." But then silence fell. His posture stiffened, hand tightening around the phone as the color drained from his face. "Wait, hold on, I can explain." But I knew his wife wouldn't buy it. I watched as reality dawned on him, and I relished every second, letting him sweat and panic as everything he once held dear slipped from his grasp. With a stretch and a casual air, I rose from my desk and strolled past him, murmuring, "Told you it wasn't worth it." He turned sharply, hatred brewing in his eyes, but he couldn't voice it, not now. For the first time, Mike was losing, and I was just starting my plan. Mike didn't return after lunch. I watched his desk remain empty, his computer dark and chair slightly askew from when he had stormed out. I imagined the drive home, knuckles white on the wheel, scrambling to figure out how to explain everything to his wife and what she knew. Eventually, Jenna from HR sent me an email. Subject: Employee Review. Ethan, we have begun reviewing the complaint regarding workplace conduct. Given the sensitive nature of the issue, Mike has been placed on temporary leave effective immediately. We'll follow up soon. I smirked at the notification. Temporary leave. They were being cautious, but I knew this meant they wouldn't hesitate to cut him loose. By the time I left work, the sun was setting, painting the sky in deep orange hues. I felt light, the rage still simmering below the surface, but now with direction. As I got into my car, my phone buzzed again. Not from Ashley or Mike, but from someone even more troublesome, her sister Megan. I frowned and picked up the call. Hello? Ethan, what the hell is going on? Megan's voice was tight with tension. Look, I really don't. Ashley's losing it. She showed up at my place crying, saying you're trying to destroy her life. I laughed, a sharp sound. I'm trying to destroy her life? That's rich. She told me you got Mike suspended and sent everything to his wife. And now she's panicking because she thinks you're not done, Megan said, her voice curling with concern. She's right, I replied. I'm not done. Ethan, listen, she said, her tone softening. I'm not defending what Ashley did. It was selfish and reckless. But she's still my sister. Please, whatever you're planning, just stop. I almost felt bad for Megan. She was the only decent one in Ashley's family. But I had to stand firm. Megan, she made her choice. Now she has to live with it. Silence hung on the other end before Megan finally spoke. She said she's coming to see you. At that, I sat up straighter. What? She left her affair, but is looking for you now, she continued. A slow, cold sensation crept down my spine. Ashley was coming, unexpectedly after everything. She should have been hiding, trying to navigate her consequences. But now she was seeking me out for what? To plead her case? To scream? To twist the narrative, casting herself as the victim? I wasn't going to let her control this conversation. Instead of driving home right away, I stopped at a gas station, getting a bottle of water and leaning against my car, waiting. I needed to cool my anger until it became a cold, sharp resolve. When I finally pulled into my driveway, Ashley's car was parked right where it was supposed to be. There she was, leaning against the hood, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently against the bumper. Under the dull glow of the streetlight, she looked almost like a stranger wearing my wife's face. I stepped out of my car and locked the door behind me. Ashley, I called. Her head snapped up, eyes wild and almost desperate. Ethan, what the hell are you doing? I exhaled, shaking my head, not in the mood for games. Ash, this isn't. You got Mike suspended. You sent everything to his wife, she shouted, her voice rising with frustration. I couldn't help but laugh. I ruined everything. She screamed back. This wasn't supposed to go like this. Then how was it supposed to go, Ashley? I stepped closer, keeping my voice low and steady. She faltered, her mouth opening and closing. It was complicated. Complicated? No, it was simple. You cheated, you lied, and you treated our home as a pit stop for your secrets. Ashley flinched at the harshness in my tone. I didn't mean to. Don't, I cut her off. Don't you dare say you didn't mean to. Her lip trembled, but the sadness faded, replaced by something darker. You think you're so righteous, she sneered, indignation bubbling. Like you've never made a mistake. Did I cheat on you? I asked, my voice clear. She hesitated. No, but... That's what I thought. Shut the hell up, she snapped, hands clenching into fists. You're punishing me. No, I replied. I'm letting you face the consequences of your choices. She huffed defeatedly. This was between us. You didn't have to drag Mike's wife into it or ruin his job. I chuckled bitterly. Funny how you only care now that it's affecting you. Ashley's expression shifted, the anger draining away, replaced by a calculating softness. She stepped closer again, voice dropping. Ethan, we had 6 years together. I remained silent. We can't just throw that away. She reached out, tentatively touching my arm. I stepped back, putting distance between us. No, I said firmly. You don't love me, Ashley. You love what I gave you, security, stability. But if you truly loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Her tears shone in the dim light, but I felt nothing. They had lost their power. She had already lost me, without truly realizing it yet. Ashley looked at me, breath hitching, as if she thought crying would sway me. Ethan, please. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was lost. But I see it now. I see us. What we had, what we still have. Still have. I repeated incredulously. You set it on fire and watched it burn. That's not true, she argued. I was confused. I made a mistake. Stop calling it a mistake, I snapped. A mistake is forgetting to turn off the oven or getting the wrong date for an appointment. You had an affair for months. You planned it. You lied about it. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Her lips quivered, and I saw clear as day she wasn't sad because she regretted it. She was upset because she got caught. I started towards the door. I was finished with this conversation with her. But she wasn't done yet. I'll fight you, she said, voice sharp now desperate. I turned back to face her, arms crossed. Go ahead, I challenged. Take me to court. Drag this out. Make it messy. Waste your time, your money, your energy. Because I promise you, Ashley, you will lose. Her hands curled into fists. You don't just get to walk away like you're the victim. I am the victim, I replied, my voice firm. You just don't want to admit it. Silence hung between us. For the first time, she seemed to lack a comeback or excuse. I stepped inside, pausing for a moment to look back. You left your affair behind and came looking for me months later. You shouldn't have, I said softly. Then I shut the door, locking it behind me. I could hear her breathing on the other side, frustration, indecision. Maybe she thought I'd open the door again, that I'd change my mind. But I didn't. Minutes later, I heard her car door slam, followed by the engine roaring to life. And just like that, she was gone for good. Epilogue. The divorce was swift. Ashley fought but lost, the evidence heavily stacked against her. She walked away with nothing but regret. As for Mike, he was fired. The official reason given was a violation of workplace conduct policies. But everyone knew the truth. His wife left him, took the house and the dog, leaving him living in a tiny apartment under the weight of alimony payments. As for me, I moved on, truly moved on. I sold the house and started fresh somewhere new. Somewhere Ashley had no history, no presence, and no place in my world.